Will Rogers is going to break, as you said earlier, Dari, Aaron Murray's completion record this week against Arkansas in only 3 seasons. Technically, guys, he's actually a sophomore because of the COVID year.
Right?
He's got 2 years left of eligibility. I don't know that he'll use all of that. Mississippi State's offense is prolific. This is one of the best air raid attacks that Mike Leach has ever had. I don't know that I can get you past 8 wins, though, at the end of the year because they have the toughest schedule in the SEC. Vanderbilt fell off the schedule and Georgia came on it. They play 4 of the top 13 teams in the country in their last 7 games.
I really felt like heading into this year, I mentioned it earlier, they were going to be one of those teams that could take a big step forward. I do agree that the schedule will be a challenge in doing so, but maybe one of the most surprising things to me to this point in the year is the fact that they lost that game in Baton Rouge against LSU.
They were the better team.
There's no question about that. Who do you believe Mississippi State to be? Are they more the team we saw Saturday or that team that lost to LSU?
They had one atrocious quarter there. Other than that, and a muff punt that gave them a short field at the 9-yard line. It all went downhill.
As a quick aside, I don't know what to do with myself this morning because we're not fighting with the person sitting in that chair. PB, wherever you are, I love you, but we usually are fighting. But you said it.
This chair has a reputation, doesn't it? It really does.
It does. You've said a lot of level-headed things so far this morning, one of which is Mississippi State 8 out of 10 times beats LSU. And I agree with you. If you watch that football game, they were the better team for 45 minutes of game time against LSU, and their offense completely wilted. Give LSU credit, but in the last quarter of the game, they completely fell apart. You're right. Mississippi State's very close to being undefeated right now if they got out of Baton Rouge with a victory. They got Arkansas this week. They have to win that game. Otherwise, they're sitting at 6 or 7 wins at the end of the year because of how challenging the schedule is after that.
And then finally, we get one from the SEC. Pay no attention to the pass interference, the hold that took place before. And that's why the ball was off. Bryce Young would have never missed that. But the
defensive player for catching.
Dwight McGlothern from Arkansas with the one-handed grab off of the deflection thwarts an early Alabama scoring attempt down in the red zone there. That ball would have been money, by the way, had he not been held. But
Coach Leach got his team playing. They play extremely hard. They're playing really well. As good a special teams group as I've seen this year. I mean, they're fantastic, and I know Alabama was really good last week, but this group is really, really good on special teams. Obviously, Will Rogers is a problem. He's a really good quarterback. Their offense, what they do, got a lot of talented receivers. Defensively, they're an attack, blitz a lot. It seemed to be working for them. But they play extremely, extremely hard and well coached, and there's a reason they're 4-1, ranked in the top 25. They've got a really good football team, but we're excited to go play them. Man coverage has been a problem for us, especially if we don't get to the quarterback. It's been a problem for us, and we just have to continue to we have to be in position better. We certainly the explosive plays. We've got to limit them. We have to be comfortable with keeping them in front of us and hoping we can have a pass breakup or get a guy on the ground. Our tackling and our secondary woes.
And then I think your first win here was at Mississippi State in 2020, and obviously, limited crowd size then. But just what do you remember about that first win, and how will this year be different for you going in there again?
Well, I remember finding out we hadn't won a SEC game in a long time after the game. I remember because everybody was so excited, and things of that nature. And you're right, there wasn't hardly anybody there because of COVID. Remember the excitement of the locker room and all those things. But we played a good game. They had scored 44, I think, on LSU the week before, and played a really good game on defense and made enough plays on offense to score. I think it was 21, and it was enough to score. But it was certainly a good feeling, and my first game ball and all that kind of stuff. It was exciting.
And speaking of quarterbacks, At Arkansas, quarterback KJ Jefferson. His availability is up in the air for Saturday's game at Mississippi State. Jefferson left the Razorbacks' loss at Alabama in the fourth quarter after hitting his head. Coach Sam Pittman said today that Jefferson has, quote, mild symptoms, but did not confirm if Jefferson was in concussion protocol. The Razorbacks turned to Cade Fortin as the backup on Saturday. And Paul, the Razorbacks started the year 3-0. They had that big lead at A&M, but they have dropped 2 games since then. They're underdogs to Mississippi State this week. Is it time to hit the panic button on Arkansas?
Yeah, well, if they can't win this game, I think they have BYU next. They're in a treacherous part of their schedule, and not to make anybody feel worse, but this is why that A&M loss hurts even more right now.
Yeah, it really does. And losing KJ Jefferson would be a big loss. I mean, we'll obviously see how that plays out. The topic of concussions has been a big one this week, so we know that Arkansas will probably proceed pretty cautiously. And of course,
entered both major polls at number 23. What is your opinion of polls? And is it just a good conversation piece, or is it something you take pride in?
I pretty much ignore them. Just try to go to the next one. Been busy, watching film all night, and that'll happen again tonight. So I'm kind of preoccupied with that. There's no real, stopping point on the poll thing. So, just try to worry about what's right now and what you can control. And that's, today it's put together the best game plan you can. Tomorrow it's have the best practice you can, and so it goes,
Mike, I need to get your thoughts on something. It's my dad's birthday. He's same age as you, actually. He's not really much for gifts in terms of what he wants, so it's kind of hard to, think about what to get him. Do you have any recommendations for a good birthday gift for someone that's your age?
No, shoot, I don't know. A day off. I go on a road trip somewhere. Pick out someplace cool. Go on a road trip. None of the boring stuff. No cell phones. Find some cool spots to go and take a drive, eat at some great places, I'd say.
Mike, you talked in the past about, this team not necessarily being old, but being experienced. How do you think this group has kind of learned to, handle the emotions that come with a big win like you guys had, and then be able to flush it, obviously, with a ranked opponent coming in again?
Well, the biggest thing is I hope we're able to just focus in on practice and improvement, because that's all that we really have control over. And if we do that, then, I think that gives us the opportunity to play our best.
Got an early kickoff this week. What would be your top 5 items to take to an early morning kickoff tailgate?
Well, some will bring Bloody Marys, I imagine. Let's see, top 5 to early morning, huh? Probably a comfortable chair, a lawn chair, to get a little sleep in before kickoff. You would definitely want something good to eat, energize you, but that's quick and easy.
It's been a barn burner the last couple of years now.
Every
time.
A fun one, all right? Every time. And I will say this, the storylines this year are more interesting to me than they have been in even previous years, because this is a very dangerous Arkansas team. A wounded hog, if you will, bloodied
wounded feral hog
after the defeat to Alabama. I think they're a team that definitely feels like they have something to prove. They definitely will do more work than they've done, I think, at any point during the season to right what issues they have defensively, which they do have some serious issues defensively. And by the way, if you have problems tackling against Alabama, Mike Leach might notice that.
Yeah, I think that's part of what was kind of upsetting for me when you watch Arkansas on Saturday. There were times when it was just like lack of athleticism, not changing directions the right play. Yeah. And look, Jalen Milroe can go. We understand that. Jahmyr Gibbs, incredible athlete. But, you may want to watch that space, because Mississippi State is coming in with some serious offensive firepower. Yeah. And that thing is clicking. We talked about it coming into the season. That air raid kind of in, the more familiarity you get with it, obviously, the better you are in that system. But for me, when I look at Mississippi State, don't forget now, they're running the ball.
Oh, yeah.
Because for years, every Leach assistant would leave Leach's kind of, fiefdom there, and they would immediately start running the ball, right? They would say Leach runs the only uncut version of the air raid without much running the ball at all. We got to add some running. And when they got into this league, Mike Leach did, a lot of people said, well, how physical can they really be? How much can they run the ball? Well,
running the ball like up to 10 times a game, okay?
They're running the ball more than
madness in Starkville,
They're running the ball more
okay?
than that.
Yeah, but Arkansas, to me, the team that's more dangerous and desperate at this point, just because they're 3-2. They've got serious issues. Let's see if they can fix it in a rebound game.
How about Mississippi State against the Aggies yet again? They could not be stopped offensively, defensively. Special teams won in every single phase of the game, plus a season-high 144 rushing yards for Mike Leach's offense. What'd you see? We were on the call for that one.
Yeah, everything up is down, everything in is out. I mean, right now, Mike Leach, we said that you were going to run the football more this year, but it just shows how really young Texas A&M is on defense and how they were able to take advantage of that, and how Mississippi State, other than about a quarter and a half of bad football versus LSU, they're one of the better teams in the conference right now.
I would agree with you on all that. Actually, shout out to Emmanuel Forbes. Young man, you are a baller. I said it a couple weeks ago, and I continue to say that and continue to push more onto you, because after 2 interceptions, for 1 to the house, then blocking a kick to help your team set up another score and win it, at the end of the day, Emmanuel Forbes,
DB love. It's a DB love,
baby.
DB love.
Just keep showing out.
4 career pick sixes. Some don't have one in their career, but Emmanuel Forbes has 4.
I played at a different time. It ain't got nothing to do with me, Emmanuel. Don't make it about me, dog.
Right. Will Rogers has picked up right where he left off a season ago. Like last year, he leads the SEC in pass yards per game, averaging 343. His 19 touchdowns through the air tied for the most in FBS this season. Time now to go inside the SEC, brought to you by Auto Owners Insurance. The quarterback of the Mississippi State Bulldogs, Will Rogers, joining us now. Will, let me start with this. I know that record chasing isn't necessarily at the top of your list, but you are 7 completions away from breaking the all-time SEC record. When you hear something like that, what does that mean to you?
I mean, it's special. Something I hadn't really thought about until, somebody mentioned it to me this week. But, obviously we just want to win Saturday, so that's kind of the main goal.
We talk about all those completions, but you and I spoke last week about the run game that Mississippi State has this year. Is it kind of weird for you to be handing the football off to your running backs as much as you are? And how great is it to have Dylan and Woody heading up the run game for you guys?
I mean, it's huge, like you said. I mean, there are 2 guys that have played a lot of snaps for us. They're both 2-3-year starters now. So, anytime that either one of those guys has the ball, it's a good football play for us.
You made contact with 8 different pass catchers on Saturday in that win against Texas A&M. What is the conversation like with your wide receivers every single week when it comes to spreading the love around as much as you guys do?
I mean, any week, it could be anybody's week, we're obviously going to throw the ball around a lot and spread the love a little bit. So, guys that come here and, guys that we recruit to be receivers here know that they're going to get a chance to make big plays.
You guys look like you were playing with all the confidence in the world offensively on Saturday against the Aggies. What lended to that? Where did that come from for you guys?
Honestly, probably practice. The way we practice, the way we prepare. We're just a group of guys that love playing together. So anytime we can get out there on Saturday and just kind of express that emotion of loving to play with each other and things like that, it's always a good time.
All right, so speaking of one of your weapons, we got to talk about the celebration that we've seen from you all season long with your guy, Caleb Ducking. We got the video of it, so everyone at home, if you're unfamiliar with this is what this looks like. Please walk us through where this started and how you started to jump on this with Caleb.
I mean, he just kind of did it the first game. I didn't even know he was going to do it, but I don't know, it fits him pretty good, and, I threw him the ball, so I guess I get to do it too.
Does he know that ducks don't necessarily just go in a circle, like he can walk straight, or are you guys just circling around with the duck formation?
He probably doesn't even know that.
I love it. All right, Will, obviously a huge part of the success on Saturday was defense and special teams, not only forcing some turnovers, but scoring some points as well. How were you guys able to play the kind of complementary football that you were?
I mean, our defense is just so great. You know, Coach Arnett, I think he does a tremendous job of, you know, showing so many different looks and bringing pressure and things like that. You know, so, I mean, I'm glad somebody else gets to go up against that defense. You know, I've been doing it long enough. But I think when you have guys like Forbes and, you know, Buki and Tyrus and Cam Young, I think it just makes your job a whole lot easier. So, you know, I can't say enough about those guys.
All right, let's spin it forward. Arkansas coming to town this weekend. You guys have them at home there in Starkville. What are some of the things that have stood out to you about this team so far this week?
I mean, I think every time you play Arkansas, you're going to get a team that plays very hard. You know, I have a lot of respect for Coach Pittman and Coach Barry Odom, their defensive coordinator. I think they do a tremendous job, you know, playing hard. You know, they have a great scheme in terms defensively. You know, they play hard in every aspect of the game, you know, offense, defense, special teams. So, you know, we're going to have to bring our A game Saturday if we want to come out there with a win.
Third down for us. I think this is what we probably agreed is maybe the second best game, if not third best game this week, is Mississippi State and Arkansas. And I think this is a monster game for Sam Pittman to stop this backslide that they've had. They should have beat Texas A&M. And then, of course, we look at what happened last week. It's no shame to lose Alabama. They're that good. But this feels like just a total mismatch, Mississippi State passing versus Arkansas secondary.
Well, it feels like teams that are headed in opposite directions right now as well. Arkansas losing 2 in a row. Do they have the energy in the tank to bounce back? Mississippi State, really, to me, probably should be undefeated. I don't know how they lost that LSU game. If not for the muff punt there in the third quarter, maybe that game doesn't go the Tigers' way. But I do think that Mississippi State is being slept on a little bit. You and I have talked about Kentucky a lot in the last couple of years, people not taking them seriously because of their name. I think Mississippi State's kind of in that same boat, and this is an opportunity for them to continue to assert themselves, not only in the competitive landscape of the SEC West, but to show nationally, hey, we got a really, really good quarterback that's not getting the hype that he deserves. Our offense is really dynamic with all of the playmakers around the quarterback, and our defense is really good with a bunch of experienced players on that side of the ball.
The lack of respect that Zach Arnett and this Mississippi State defense showed to Texas A&M's offensive line last week was incredible. It was like, we don't care, we're going to get after you, and indeed they did. And now with KJ Jefferson not necessarily being 100%, I'm fascinated because, A, KJ was not throwing the ball downfield, and if he's banged up just a little bit right now, this feels really heavy-handed towards Mississippi State.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're seeing that right now. The Vegas line, I think, is up to 8.5, 9 points. I mean, I don't think we would have ever imagined Mississippi State being favored by that much as we headed into the season, but this is where we are right now. And you mentioned earlier the Arkansas defense, they have been terrible in a couple different things. One, covering receivers. 2, tackling the receivers after they catch the football, and that's not a good combo. And this is a team offensively that predicates their success on catching the football and making yards after the catch. If you're not going to rally to the football and tackle more soundly than Arkansas has, it's going to be a long day for that defense because you're not going to be able to get home against Will Rogers. They get the ball out quickly, so that rush defense that has been so good for Arkansas is going to be neutralized.
As the Bulldogs get ready to take on the University of Arkansas, early game tomorrow. And we're always thrilled to say hello to Coach Mike Leach as we see you. Good to see you again, Coach.
Good to see you.
Let's talk a little bit about this season. And we talked to you a few weeks ago, I think, before the LSU game. And now that was a huge win last week. So how do you feel?
Well, I just try to get better each week, try to get better, try to improve. And, you know, we got kind of an eager group that practices hard. And so we're heading that direction, and we'll try to get there as fast as we can, really.
I just looked at your schedule a minute ago, and I'm sure this has been addressed, but nobody did you any favors with your crossovers. I know you normally have, you always have Kentucky, but you get Georgia thrown in there for good favor.
Yeah. You know, New England and Green Bay were busy that week, and so then we went ahead and played a bunch of those people they stuck on our schedule just to make sure that everybody felt like it was tough enough. And so and it's been the toughest schedule up to this point. So anyway, so we're looking forward to a good one against Arkansas. And Arkansas, of course, is a really good team, and excited to have them come up here and play.
You get so many quirky questions. I'm going to be serious because I said to some of your writers a minute ago. I think let's stop with everything that's in your arsenal, but. Being the quarterback and the offensive coach that you are,
Look
I
at
think
that.
we often.
They got a camera right there, so you can. I love your hairline. There you go.
You pleased with how you look?
I don't really pay much attention, but I had this thing right here. You got this thing where you kind of have front view, back view, side view. It's like you act like it's Fort Knox up here. So anyway, I just sorted it out. All right, go ahead.
Well, I was just curious about you've coached so many great quarterbacks, and as I don't know if you do a lot of reflection. Maybe I think you probably do, but are you able to look back over your arsenal of quarterbacks and rank them, or is that just something taboo for a coach?
Well, that's pretty tough. It'd also be it wouldn't be in my best interest for the quarterbacks to do that.
Other than the one you have.
But the best one's always the one you have. So the best one ever is always the one you currently have. So, and then, I think they're similar in a lot of ways as far as, every one of them had to be a pretty good film guy as far as watching film, a pretty good guy as far as getting a lot done when no one else is around, also a guy that would generate a good level of work with the team and the receivers around him, like in the off seasons and things when we're not allowed to be out there coaching them. So most of them were, they're all tireless workers. Otherwise, I'd move them somewhere else. And then, so they had a lot in common that way. But then, the other thing is you think back, who threw this ball, who liked this play, the nature of how they were, they're all a little different too, So, yeah, there has been quite a bunch, and as I think about it, scattered all over the place, doing all different things.
In addition to the quarterbacks, I mean, you've come from this burgeoning family of coaches as well. You were part of one. Now you're producing them, and I don't know. I mean, Lincoln Riley was part of the tree.
Cliff was one of my quarterbacks. Yeah. Josh Heupel was one of my.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's a pretty endless group of coaches.
Yeah, quite a few. Well, you try to have good people. I felt like they were good people when they worked for me, and it's a little bit like Bear Bryant said: never hire somebody that doesn't know something that you don't, because otherwise you don't need them. And so then I did try to hire guys that I thought could add something that I couldn't, or the other people on the staff couldn't.
I thought you were going to say you tried to hire Bear Bryant, but that would have.
Well, I tried. I'm still working on that a little bit, but. Haven't sorted it. I mean, in this day and age, people use their imagination and pretend a lot of things are possible or are a reality that everything from biology books and everything else suggests they aren't. So maybe I'll get to hire Bear Bryant at some point.
I don't know if he would be that good a hire.
Just because I want to, just because I say so. But at any rate, he said hire somebody that knows something you don't. I've tried to do that. So I've been proud of the guys I've hired and felt like they all did bring a different dimension,
Brian, one of Brian's top assistants once told me, Coach, that Coach Bryant really just coached the assistant coaches. He did not coach the players. I mean, he did it from a tower, but his greatest skill was the assistants. So how would you describe your style?
I'm more hands-on, and I do, there's always a certain amount of coaching the coaches. You want this, you want that, and you sort of construct a philosophy of what you want. I give them a lot of leeway, because I think if I micromanage too much, then I wreck their creativity and their innovation, and I'd like to be the benefactor of their creativity and innovation. So you try not to chill that, and then, but I am pretty hands-on, and of course call the plays on offense, and so I'm out there every day. I mean, the offensive linemen, whoever, they see me out there doing stuff every day. So
I wanted to ask you about that, because there's where I sit, you get a coach who's very successful, maybe something doesn't go well, and people start saying, well, he needs to hand over offensive play calling. But as the head coach, isn't that part of your domain to do what you want to do?
Well, yeah, I think pretty much. I mean, I got into this calling plays and stayed in it calling plays, so when
you're calling the plays, does it I mean, that's pretty all-consuming. Does it affect the rest of the game when that is what you are doing as well as being the head coach?
I don't know. Anybody that's calling the plays is working more than the guys wearing the sweater, shaking everybody's hands, you know. So you kind of have a choice, and it would be good if you had that perfect balance. So you get into coaching to coach, okay, and then you do a good enough job that they make you a head coach. Okay, well then all of a sudden, arguably one of the better coaches on your staff isn't coaching because now all of a sudden he's a head coach. Right. So what he's going to do is just, wear a sweater, go to cocktail parties, eat crumpets, and shake hands with rich people, and rather than do what he got him there. What he did the best. I've always felt like it expanded our staff, a coach with me coaching, and then we put the other coach over there on defense. So, no, I got into it to coach, and I plan to continue coaching, and and there's some guys that are very successful sweater wearers and cheerleaders, and I wish them the best. And part of it is,
you wouldn't like to name those right now, would you?
No, but some do it pretty well. I mean, because I can think of a few. I can think of a few that were actually coordinators that said, "Okay, I'm only pretty average at this." But, when I'm happy, everybody else is happy.
Right.
I can think of one in particular. When I'm happy, everybody else is happy. And so, he was kind of aware of the sweater, make sure he's happy. Somebody do something good. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. He was one of those guys, you see. And so then everybody else would get happy, and it would just kind of ignite things. He was a very good coach. His teams did very well. And part of the reason they did is because he knew what to get into and what to stay out of. And I think there's a certain amount of that.
I hate this has to end because we're going up against the break, but I'd like to pursue that the next time I see you. We're onto something here.
Well, that sounds good, and of course we got a lot of commercials we got to get in here, and then I understand. So
we have to pay the coaches.
Well, those guys at University of Alabama are letting you root for Tennessee a little bit this year.
They've given me a pass.
Really?
Well, we have to negotiate for next week when they.
Well, I'll tell you, when it starts to get close, I know you're going to pull right back to the West and you'll come back home. But the thing is in the meet.
Okay, I think we have one more left, and is there another game tomorrow? Right here, Arkansas taking on Mississippi State.
You guys know I've been talking and singing the praises of Will Rogers and this Mississippi State football team all off season. I thought they were the team that was going to take the big step forward this year. The big question for me are twofold in this game. One, first and foremost, how did Mississippi State lose earlier in the season to LSU? I mean, they should be undefeated right now. They let that one get away. But the other question for me is, how is Barry Odom's defense so bad? I mean, the reason why they were so good in Sam Pittman's first 2 years there in Fayetteville was primarily because of the defense. They played really disciplined, really sound with their technique. They've done a great job of playing physical and tackling, and all that stuff's out the window. Right now they're playing far too much man coverage. They don't give those corners any help with safeties in the middle, and they can't tackle the ball at all after the catch. So I think that's the thing that you look at. Mississippi State's offense is so good at turning 5-yard catches into 12, 15-yard gains. If you don't come up and tackle well like LSU did, you're going to find yourself taking a loss yourself. So I do believe that Mississippi State is playing some of their best football, and I think this is a great matchup for them against an Arkansas defense that's given up a lot of yards through the air this year.
Maybe a sneaky, wildly important game in Starkville Saturday. Mississippi State hosting Arkansas. Bulldogs offense is humming. Arkansas's 3-0 start becoming a distant memory thanks to a 2-game skid. Sam Pittman 2, Mike Leach 0 when it comes to head-to-head. SEC Nation is in Starkville. Laura?
Dari, here we are in Starkville, and we're already getting a little interaction with the crowd here. I think they're ready to go. That guy says more trombone instead of cowbell.
I like
Or
both.
is it instead? We don't know, right? I guess I'm assuming something.
It's a balance.
Roman Harper, Tim Tebow, Jordan Rogers. We're going to be hearing a lot of cowbell.
into the stadium.
Why not?
Hey, you know what they can do is bring a trombone out here for our show if they want to.
And now there might be some tomorrow.
I hope there are. We'll take all the brass instruments that we can get. Wind ones, too. Let's talk about Will Rogers, because he's been such a story for this Mississippi State team. And he enters the week with 915 completions, 7 more, and he breaks Aaron Murray's SEC record. I don't think people realize how many records he's either already broken or is in danger of breaking. He also has 7 games with 400 passing yards, tied with former Mike Leach protege Tim Couch for the most in SEC history. He goes up against an Arkansas team. We'll talk about their defense in just a little bit, but when you think about Mississippi State's offense and the way that Will Rogers is leading it, Jordan, what comes to mind?
I just think it's a natural progression of what Mike Leach wants out of his quarterback. I mean, initially it's the system, right? You chase grass, you throw to grass, and that's the quarterback does, distributes the football. As you evolve in this offense, he has much more control about what they're doing at the line of scrimmage, checks through the air, checks on the ground as well. Their run game has been such an improvement because they're more physical. They're using 2 backs, and because Will Rogers is controlling a little bit more at the line of scrimmage. So he always had the accuracy. He always had the moxie. It's the development and the experience within this system that's really showing how good he can be and how good this offense can be.
Stats just don't always paint the picture. They don't tell the full story. And he had a lot of yards and stats and completions when they weren't really that good. And now they are playing at a higher level, and his stats don't really show the difference. But the level he's playing at and the offense, the ability that he's able to lead this offense and manage and have courage in the pocket and throw his receivers open, but then also able to, maneuver in the red zone. What I love his ability to not throw in traffic in the red zone, and then be able to wait and now, okay, 4th and 1, we'll go run it in. And their ability to constantly change and evolve, because it's not just about yards and stats. It's ultimately now about winning football games, and he has taken the next step in his elite quarterback play at being a leader, not just a stat maker.
Roman, we just saw those numbers on the screen about the yards after the catch for Mississippi State's offense versus the missed tackles for Arkansas. That's a key matchup in this one.
It is a huge problem, and it's a problem that I don't see Arkansas with the ability to fix right now, which is it's really tough a situation when your biggest weakness of Arkansas, which is tackling in space, that is exactly what Mississippi State is trying to chase. Jordan did a great job of a tape last year talking about this offense just chasing grass, throwing to spots, throwing to areas, not so much attacking matchups or mismatches that they feel. It's been something to watch, and also Will Rogers, I love his ability to be able to move defenders and throw exactly where he wants to get the ball to. That is the biggest element of his game that I see that translates to Sundays.
So Marty and McGee, of course, with us as always on SEC Nation tomorrow. And both of you guys visited with these head coaches. You have conversations also coming tomorrow with both Mike Leach and Sam Pittman. So boys, take it away and tell us what you think we can expect.
You think the visitors should go first?
Yeah, sure.
I think so. We talked to Sam Pittman, and he said there's 3 real high points that the Razorbacks must accomplish if they want to win this game. First of all, they have to run the football with their running backs, and how the offensive line picks up those run blitzes will determine how well they're able to do that. Guys, I actually just talked to the team a few minutes ago. KJ Jefferson will be a game-time decision. All right, the second thing that they have to do is they have to stay patient within Barry Odom's defensive game plan. And lastly, and most importantly, it's as if Roman Harper had talked to Sam Pittman himself, they have to tackle in space. It's something that they've been deficient at this year. They know Mississippi State is going to complete passes, but when the Bulldogs do so, they got to get them on the ground.
Yeah, well, and Jordan just said, he's talking about chasing grass, right? Finding those empty spaces. And to me, it's always been the misnomer about the air raid, which is you're thinking about it's going downfield. It's not. It's just creating those areas and throwing it in there. And Mike Leach, when we talked, was talking about this idea of, listen, everybody loves chunk yardage. What do you say all the time? What do the coaches say about
explosive plays?
Explosive plays. Mike Leach says, yeah, that's fine. He said, but you give me 10-yard plays, and I'll take that over 2 50-yard plays as long as it gets me to the end zone. So what he likes to talk about is this idea of being consistency as opposed to just occasional greatness. Just be good. Be good a lot as opposed to being great every now and then, and you could probably move the football down the field. And, oh, by the way, the key to all this is keep Will Rogers upright, and that's a problem when you're playing Arkansas.
Laura, do I look like John Dutton in this vest?
Yeah, no, 100%. Does that make me rip?
You
Does that
just
make
gave
me rip?
yourself a massive
I'm taking you to the
compliment.
train station.
I guess I'm Beth, which I'm not
Very
sure
Kevin
how I feel
Costner.
about
I'm going to
that.
put that on there.
Hi, Kevin. I know you're watching.
Beth's going to say some cuss words probably then.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll try to keep it clean.
Mississippi State fans rejoicing last Saturday, no doubt, when their dogs whipped up on A&M at Davis Wade. They hope to do the same this Saturday. And with that, it's time for Fansville, presented by Dr. Pepper. State beating the Hogs would mean snapping a 2-game losing streak to Arkansas and getting Mike Leach his first win over Sam Pittman in this battle of third-year head coaches. Mississippi State winning would also make them 5-1, which would be their best 6-game record since 2014. And when you look at what ESPN's Football Power Index thinks, it does think almost 3-1 that Mississippi State will indeed beat Arkansas. A 76% chance, in fact, it says, for Hail State, and sending Arkansas to their what would be their third consecutive loss here. What does Mississippi State do, in your estimation, to make sure they get to 5-1?
I think Mississippi State's playing really well right now. Right? And there's two things that come to mind in this matchup. First and foremost, how did Mississippi State lose to LSU a couple weeks ago?
We discuss that every Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, LSU somehow found a way to pull one out when Mississippi State didn't close them out earlier in the ballgame. The other question I have, and you and I have talked about this a lot, Takeo, what is Barry Odom doing on defense? Like, Barry Odom was the reason why Sam Pittman had so much success in his first 2 years. How much did Chiz talk about, wow, this defense plays with great technique and they're really good with their assignments and they get their cleats in the ground early on. Right now, they're playing far too much man coverage. They're not getting any sort of help in the middle of the field, and they can't tackle at all. You talk about bad technique. That's the one thing you got to do on defense is tackle the ball carrier. They haven't been able to do that at all. What's the thing this offense for Mississippi State's predicated on? Yards after the catch. Turn a 5-yard catch into a 12, 15-yard gain. If you don't tackle better than they have this year, it's going to be a long day for that Arkansas defense.
Amen to everything you just said, Chris. I'm saying it loud and clear. When you look at this Arkansas team, it's important. They have to start fast. Number one, I think about going back last year when they played Georgia. Granted, that was their first game on the road. Georgia, pretty exceptional team last year, so all right, we'll wipe that out. But let's go back to Missouri State this year, guys. They came out with a slow start, fumbled the ball in the red zone a few times, and what happened? It turned into a real dogfight. And then you look at last week. At the blink of an eye, they were down 4 scores. Now, if you're playing SEC football, you cannot start so slow as they've been doing, especially playing on the road. So if you're Arkansas, you have to start fast in order to have a chance to win this game.
That's a great point. I mean, I think not only Arkansas starting slow, look at the rest of the team in this league. LSU started really slow this year. Auburn has started slow at times this year. Georgia started slow. Like, these guys got to have a greater sense of urgency, and I agree. Arkansas needs to find that urgency in a hurry.
52 missed tackles or broken tackles against for Arkansas. That is worst in the SEC. And quite frankly, I'm just checking real quick to see how bad it is nationally. It's not a number you want to have. It is 105th nationally.
And then what, 126, 128, something like that?
Out of 131.
This is where it's all bad. It's not so much they are missing tackles, but last week we drew up the diagram. We saw they're not putting themselves in position to be able to make a
Bad
tackle
angles.
when the catch is secured. So that's part of it, too.
Yeah. It'll get ugly Saturday if that does not get right.
KJ Jefferson, the Arkansas quarterback, questionable after leaving last week's game. Arkansas, as we know, and we'll get into this, a must-win situation. How massive is this for KJ?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything. And we were talking to some Arkansas people on the way over here, and they know he's been to practice. Nobody really knows exactly what he's done, but this is a dicey situation for Sam Pittman. And considering it is a must-win situation, without him, I don't see how they can.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to follow that. And, of course, we'll be showing you live warm-ups on the field right behind us there in Davis Wade Stadium as we get close to kickoff here on SEC Network. So we'll know a little bit more as we see what happens with these quarterbacks. We'll be showing you the backups as well. All right, so we've told you Mississippi State is more than ready for this one. We've heard all week long how businesslike Coach Leach, Will Rogers and company have been. Coach Leach visiting with Marty Smith just moments ago.
It's obvious to me that you have a very different level of focus this week. You are locked in. What is it about today that matters so much to you?
It's the next game. You can only win one game a week, and this is the game this week, so we got to play the best we can.
We're of the mind that your quarterback is one of the most underrated players in the country. What is it that makes him so special?
Just the ability to elevate the rest of the group, the players around him. You're right about that, though.
Why do you think he's underrated?
I don't know. Maybe because he's younger than some of them.
As you studied Arkansas throughout this week, Coach, how do you guys hope to take advantage of them offensively?
We just got to play well. Just worry about ourselves and play the best game we can play,
Atmosphere outside is crazy. The people showed up. What did you see during Dog Walk just now?
Well, it's pretty impressive considering that it's hours before the game and it's 7 in the morning or whatever it adds up to. So, yeah, definitely some devoted fans.
Got your coffee. Yeah. It is early. How do you take your coffee? What's the best way to take your coffee?
Well, coffee tastes terrible anyway, so don't put anything in it to obstruct the harsh, bitter taste, and just put it down one sip at a time,
So it's just all about the effect. The taste, it's not about the experience at all. It's about the outcome.
No, the experience is terrible.
Thank you for your time. We really appreciate you, Coach. Have fun today.
All right.
Consumer of a pumpkin cream cold brew here and there, I might have to rethink my strategy. I think I'm obstructing.
I feel you, Coach Leach. Just take it black. That's all you need.
That's all you got to do. By the way, Roman doesn't drink coffee. Roman's just hot chocolate, right?
I'm just hot chocolate on a cold morning. That's it. I'm not into it.
What I'm so impressed with Mike Leach is he's a man of the people. I mean, Saban's got a guy that holds his coffee cup. And Leach, he carried that all the way through. Who does that?
Yeah, impressive by Marty, too, to not trip right.
That is super impressive. Can we just go over his nuggets are gold.
Oh, he's so good.
It is unbelievable. It doesn't matter which way that he's tossing it up. It is amazing. Like, if he's for you, against you, whatever, it's amazing.
He's obviously dialed in, Paul, in a way that only he can be. What did you take from that interview and what you've heard about Mississippi State leading into this one?
What people don't realize about Mike Leach is he's actually a genius. The guy's got a law degree. He's smarter than all of us. He knows what he's doing. He's just saying, okay, which reporter am I going to play with today? You know that. You've had all these meetings. He's really done a great job of getting the energy back here. We were here 3 years ago, and it was flatline. That guy's now gone. And Leach has done a phenomenal job, and especially after a win. We've done this show for almost 9 years now, Tim. This is as good as it gets.
Well, there's no doubt about that. But, Paul, Leach is a genius. He's designed so many plays and so many schemes offensively. But football isn't just about X's and O's. It's also about relating to people. And what I think he's done a great job is we knew he had a lot of great X's and O's. But now he's also winning over people and his team. You see how hard they play. That's what I think he's done a great job of, is matching the genius in the scheme with the camaraderie, the fellowship, the brotherhood.
And you heard him mention real quick there just that his quarterback elevates everybody around him. Of all the things you could say about him, you just mentioned what Leach does in getting people on board. His quarterback elevates everybody around him.
Roman, you've been
That's the one nugget you got.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks elevate and
he's got an endorsement for his extreme gasoline coffee over there. All right.
Always ready.
You've been impressed with what this Mississippi State offense has been able to do. The way that they're rolling, the way that they're clicking. What do you expect out of them today against Arkansas's defense?
A lot of the same things, just because Arkansas does not tackle well. I've been talking about that for the last few weeks, and it's a problem that can't get fixed overnight, especially with all the injuries that they've had to the secondary. Right here's a great example. Bumper Pool, one of their best tacklers in space. They're not making these plays, so instead of stopping them on third down, you're extending these drives more and more. And Mississippi State is a team that likes to attack space, not matchups, and open grass. So whenever they're able to find these players in space, Arkansas is not going to win these one-on-ones, so it doesn't really bode well for Arkansas going forward.
One thing I'll say that I do think will help Arkansas's defense is this offense forces you to go drop 8, which all of last year, essentially, Arkansas went drop 8 almost against everybody, and they excelled at it. So it gets them back to their roots a little bit about what they did last year. But what I love about this Mississippi State team, Tim, you'll love it too, physicality in the run game. Where has this been in the air raid?
What did you just say? What? Hold on a second.
How physical this run game is. Watch the tape here. A lot of times for 3-man fronts, you'll get single blocks. They're doing a lot with 2 running backs in the backfield, which means one of those guys is a lead blocker. Watch this play. When you have a lead blocker as a running back, the other guy getting the handoff, you can get double teamed. You can be physical at the point of attack, something we didn't see a ton of. So I love this 2-back set that Mississippi State is using a lot. We saw it a lot last week. And look at the numbers. They are so much better on first down, which means they're converting more short third downs. They're scoring more points. The run game is really helping unlock this offense, especially on early downs.
Uh-oh, Tim.
Did we just show running plays
We did.
from the air raid?
Tim,
What
you
is
might-
happening?
Hey.
What is happening?
Are you a believer now?
Uh-oh.
Listen, I love what Coach Leach has been willing to do the last few weeks.
There we go.
Because he's been willing, when he sees a 5-man box, to give Will Rogers the freedom to run the ball.
Let's go.
And it changes everything. Look, guys, 5 men in the box. What happens? An easy inside zone. Oh, my goodness. What happened? You gain 15 yards. That's crazy, isn't it? 2 plays later. Here we go. A shovel pass. I know it counts as a pass, guys.
They block it like a run.
It's really just a run. Sorry about it. Okay, 2 plays. There you go. Now, next drive. After they score a touchdown, what does A&M have to do? Oh, we can't give it up anymore. We're bringing 6. Bring pressure. Now play man-to-man. What happens? It opens up. Easy, easy, easy throwing for Will Rogers to go down the field. It's amazing. I love that they're giving Will the freedom to say, hey, 5 men in the box, we're going to hand it off. It makes his job so much easier.
Think about it. The air raid is usually the pass sets up the run, right?
Yes.
When they drop 8, okay, now we can run it. This offense is starting to teeter on that run.
It's starting
really
to-
setting up the pass.
Starting to teeter on what we call balance.
Whoa, sorry about being balanced. By the way, if at home, if you're like, wow, are these people going to yell for the entire 2 hours?
Yes.
Yeah, we are, because the cowbell's really loud.
It is
so we're
loud,
going to
guys.
keep
Sorry
yelling,
about it.
and it's fine, and we're excited for college football.
And when I look at this Mississippi State defense, I love what they do, and they know exactly who they are. They got the characteristics. They are a tough physical team, and they like to hide things from you right here. This D lineman and Max Johnson thinks he's rushing. No, he's not. He drops under. He gets up under this pass, makes it go. And that's part of the things that they hide from you right here. It looks like these ends are rushing, but they actually drop. Now they get back into the fold of the rush and knock this quarterback out and down. This is how Mississippi State affects you. Now we show him pressure, and we bring it off. Zero coverage right here by Emmanuel Forbes. Great job. Driving to the receiver, keeping his eyes on him, making a play on the ball, and showing some DB love. Kissing the fans, showing love. Hey, Ma, look at me, I'm on TV. Just like me. Matter of fact, I got my own cowbell over here. I'm rocking today. Laura, back to you.
We're about 49 minutes away from kickoff. And guys, there's a lot of interesting pieces to this. We're being told right now, we'll show you these live pictures of KJ Jefferson warming up. Malik Hornsby also warming up. So that's not unusual, right, Jordan? You would imagine that you would see both of these guys, but we are still trying to find out for sure if KJ Jefferson is going to be able to play. Let's get a little more answers there. Ryan McGee is with Sam Pittman.
Hey, Laura, I'm going to ask him because you said for me to ask him. So Laura wants to know, I'm looking at number 1 over there warming up. What is KJ's status?
Well, he's available. I don't know what we're going to do with him, to be honest with you, but he's available to play.
Okay, great. And you really fascinated me, something you said after that heartbreaking loss to Texas A&M about learning from a loss and what you did with that psychologically with the team that week. What have you done this week to help this team get back on track in a tough assignment this morning?
We talked a lot about, we're coaching them, then they've got to believe in what we say, and then it's their team. They got to go play, and their actions are going to show how bad they want to win, and I think that's real bad, and I think we'll have a really good game.
Is every quarterback in the room available today?
Everybody's available, and just because you ain't seen nobody doesn't mean they're not good. We'll be fine.
There's some philosophy for you there, Laura, and that's Sam Pittman getting ready to coach a football game.
All right, thank you guys so much. Interesting there. As you can see, it sounds like, well, I'll just put it this way. We didn't hear Pittman say that KJ Jefferson was going to start. he said he would be available. That could mean anything, right? I guess I'll start with you here, Jordan, as you see KJ getting ready to go. What did that sound like to you?
To me, it sounds like he's not playing.
Thank you.
Right?
That's coach talk for he's not playing.
That's what I thought too.
With the type of injury that it was last week, the issue was really going full speed, taking more hits. So you're either available or not in my book.
But then why say you're available?
Because it's a head coach and you got 47 minutes to kick.
He's like, I'm not giving it away.
The field, right? I mean, look, he's suited up, he's throwing it around because this is still strategy. Look, I don't have any inside information, but I'm just telling you, having been a quarterback, had similar injuries. And we talked about this earlier. There's really, in football, there's not really any true game time decisions. That is a coaching
You know
strategy.
what's happening,
you
right?
know on Friday if he's playing or not. So if there is any question right now, I would lean to it being Cade Fortin.
Okay, so Cade Fortin is who we expect. You're seeing him on the screen right now. You just heard Pittman there, Jordan, say that just because you haven't seen the quarterback very much doesn't mean he's not good.
Right. I met his parents last night at walk-ons.
Oh,
I would probably go the other way with that. I've seen a lot of game time decisions, and maybe we did it a little bit differently, but I know for multiple times one against LSU, I was a game time decision. They wanted to see how I was recovering from a concussion. Multiple times we had some of our receivers that were coming back from ankle injuries, and they want to see how they warmed up and if they could cut, if they're going to be a liability, literally leading up minutes before the game. And then also, with all the medicine that they give you pre-game, how does your body react to that? And can you play pain-free? And so I wonder if they're really still evaluating him or they actually already know. I think that would be a question mark for me.
Tim, going back to your day, you should not have played that.
Yeah, exactly. Slightly different time.
Well, okay, when we think about Cade Fortin potentially being out there, we've talked a lot about the Mississippi State offense against Arkansas's defense, but how about Arkansas's offense, Roman, against Mississippi State's defense, potentially not having KJ Jefferson?
Yes, and Mississippi State's going to be a little bit more aggressive today.
Right.
They're going to blitz a lot more. They're going to try and cut off these run lanes and really stack the box. Make this guy, young man Cade Fortin, beat them through the air. Knowing that as Mississippi State, you love your coverage corners. You like the matchups, and you're not afraid of that in the one-on-one situation. So they're going to stack the box, put it on this young quarterback's arms, and make him figure out what they're doing as well. Because Mississippi State, like I showed you on the tape, they line up and do a whole bunch of movement, and guys are coming from all over the place, and you think guys are coming, but they're really dropping, and that really confuses guys, and they get under a lot of underneath throws and make plays for themselves. That is what this young man's going to have to try and figure out post snap.
And Emmanuel Forbes is great on the outside, but if you are Kendall Briles, you have to take shots. You got to give opportunities for Matt Landers and Jaden Hazelwood down the field, if not for anything, to lighten the box. Because
just throw it.
Cade Fortin is going to be, I think, he's going to play a majority. Malik Hornsby is going to have a role.
Great athlete.
He's an athlete. He was the presumed backup until we saw Fortin last week as well. You'll see both of them. They need to find ways to loosen Mississippi State up in the box, take some shots down.
But also why that makes so much sense is if you're a young quarterback and I got to read,
50-50 balls, right?
Field zones and I got to read dropping and all of a sudden Mississippi State does. Now I got to kind of be perfect. If I'm throwing a deep ball and I got one-on-one, well, you know what? I know there's a couple different types of throws, but I can also just throw it to them and play a lot of jump balls and back shoulder balls. And that's one of the easiest things. These kids have been doing it since they were 7, 8 years old.
Right.
7 on 7.
That's something that Cade is going to feel super comfortable with.
Paul, just quickly here, Arkansas starts out with the win over Cincinnati. They have gone downhill in some ways since. Now they don't have healthy players. What is today like for them and Sam Pittman?
Well, this is their season, and it goes back to A&M 2 weeks ago. They let that game get away. They shouldn't have, and then they've been they were expected loss, and a loss here today almost ends any hope of what we all thought was a great season. Because they still have BYU on the road, which is extraordinarily difficult. A season that could have gone 10-2, 9-3, so with a loss today just evaporated.
Next on the SEC Network, KJ Jefferson has been questionable. DoorDash counting us down to kickoff. About 23 and a half minutes until they'll ring the cowbells and start in Vegas. If he can go,
that's a good sign.
Maybe that changes it. He's got the headgear on and warming up.
I mean, he is the team offensively. The way he runs the football and throws and compliments Sanders in that backfield. Big Rocket Sanders, the physicality.
He leads the SEC in rushing over 6 600 yards. But Will Rogers, those 400 yards passing games, he's tied Tim Couch for that record, just a few completions short from passing Aaron Murray for the most completions in SEC history in about half the number of games.
And we know with Mike Leach, when he's got a quarterback and he and Leach are in sync, that's when they become dangerous. He's got not just ducking, but they spread it around. It's just hard to defend the offense with a quarterback that sees it as quickly as
Will Rogers, less than 15 minutes away from kickoff right here on the SEC Network. Mississippi State having Arkansas come to town. And Cade Fortin on the other side. KJ Jefferson is still trying to find out for sure if he's going to end up playing in this game. You see Malik Hornsby, who Jordan told us will be involved in this game plan. Maybe not necessarily always as a quarterback, but they can do a lot with him. Heard from Sam Pittman earlier, who did say that all quarterbacks are available. A Saturday in Starkville, one of the best atmospheres in all of college football. Marty Smith and Ryan McGee are down there on the field. What's going on down there, boys?
That is not the first time that's happened, young lady.
It's happened a few times, yeah.
Update us on the quarterback situation.
All right, so y'all know about a half hour ago I spoke to Sam Pittman, and on the air, what we all said. He also looked at me when the interview was over with. He goes, Cade's pretty good. And what that tells me, based on also he told his pregame radio show with Arkansas, is that I believe that Cade is going to be your starting quarterback here when they take the field in just a few minutes.
Jefferson was out here warming up.
He was.
In full dress. Looked really good, but it does appear, based on what he told the radio show there, that Fortin will get the start. It's interesting how much narrative, Laura, there's been this week about the way Mike Leach has acted. He's always really funny. He's always really quirky, but there's been a different edge this week about him. And I asked him about it during my interview when the show started, but I also kind of asked around the program this week about their perspective on that. The reason that he's acting that way, based on what I'm learning, is he thinks he has something really special with this particular group. He believes this season he has complete buy-in from his guys, and that they have the opportunity to do something very, very unique and special here in Starkville. So today is the next step in that, and today is a very important step in that, and he's just a little bit extra locked in as a result of seeing the tremendous potential he believes they have this year.
And then the flip side of that is Sam Pittman said, listen, losses sometimes will teach you something. 2 losses teach you got to get your season back on track, and he knows that's what he has to do right now.
Will Rogers leading the charge for Mississippi State in a game that Paul said earlier, a must-win for Arkansas. So let's start picking it. Who are you taking, Arkansas or Mississippi State, Rome?
Arkansas does not tackle well in space. Mississippi State attacks space on offense. Arkansas cannot get that problem fixed today. I got Mississippi State with the win.
One pick for the Bulldogs. All right, Jordan.
Well, as we suspected, if it's not KJ Jefferson, it's going to be Cade Fortin. And one thing that you don't want to do as a young quarterback is go against a team like Zach Arnett's defense that is going to bring the kitchen sink at you, and I think it's going to be successful. I'm going Bulldogs, baby!
I like it.
All right, Timmy.
Laura, are you kidding me? Mississippi State's got a stingy defense. They got Will Rogers. Mike Leach has his coffee. And you know what? They have a whole lot of cowbell. I'm going Mississippi State.
Let me get out of the way.
Mississippi State across the board right now. And some of these guys have picked Arkansas plenty of times in the past. What are you going to do here, Paul?
I hate to ruin the party here by picking Arkansas. Oh.
I thought Paul was going to throw something.
What he was going to do.
Okay, everybody here picking Mississippi State.
Well, Arkansas won the toss, Tiffany, and they deferred, so we'll see Will Rogers first this morning here at Davis Wade Stadium. Boy, a huge crowd outside the stadium still trying to work their way in. SEC Nation had a throng of folks watching their show today. Hopefully they'll get here in a matter of moments as this one will sail out of bounds. So good field position for the Bulldogs to start. Rogers. That pass is incomplete. Well read on the back end. Nice job. On third down. Go to Sanders. Great catch First down over the 35 to the 37-yard line. Well done by Sanders to pick up the first down. Quick throw coming back to the near side. Almost picked off. That almost fell right into Nichols' hands. They were trying to hit Robinson with it. Malik Chavis back there, right through his hands.
Hey, that's one that you're going to want back. You know, I mean, it hits him in his hand, and you can see just the focus there by Wally.
Thank you, Peter, very much. 14-0 here. A few months, put his name in the portal, then kind of withdrew it, came back to the program, and try him out a wide receiver. And this is what he can do, folks. Explosive run for Malik Hornsby, and that great speed as he is popped out of bounds by Forbes, but a huge run into Bryles' offense. Looking at a 3rd down and 4. Hornsby tucks it and runs. He'll have a first down around the 17. A big collision as he met a couple of Bulldogs. Jalen Green.
Fournette is not the runner that obviously Hornsby is.
Sanders breaking some tackles. He'll be close to the first down. They'll spot him back at the 8-yard line. Another 3-man rush. He'll drop 8 over the middle. That one almost picked off.
We've seen them have some opportunities to be able to come up with some interceptions. And very rarely has Arkansas been able to cash in on it. We saw
on 2nd down, pressure comes. They try to dump it off underneath, and Rogers bats it down.
Screen here, and Isaiah Nichols, we talked about the twist and the stunts, and does a nice job of being able to get his hands up in the air. And as a defender, you see that ball up.
Their graduate with his 3rd touchdown catch of the year. Boy, what a grab. What a shot. Bulldogs up 21. Just something positive to happen.
Well, I think just having Hornsby definitely helps. I mean, because he can give you a spark in the run game that they really hadn't been able to have. I mean, he had those 2 big runs, being able to play.
Love the team passing and rushing a year ago. Big hole off the left side for Sanders. Drives his way to the first down line. On 1st down and 10, 3-man rush. Hornsby to throw. As a man pass is caught. Jackson making the nice catch. 34, had a career-long 51 against Mississippi State last year in Fayetteville. This one is good. Trying to catch his breath. Trainer's standing by just in case. Here's Dylan Johnson. Nice combination in the backfield. Rogers. That ball almost picked off.
Jaden Johnson, that's hurt right now down on the field, but he's there. And I don't know if it's just a receiver that disrupts him, but that's the 3rd time.
Here comes some pressure. Quick throw, and that'll one hop and be incomplete. And the Arkansas Razorbacks. Hornsby back in at quarterback. They have been rotating with Fortin and Hornsby all afternoon. Nice throw, wide open. Pass is caught by Hazelwood. Cuts it back. It's a sprint to the end zone. And he is out of bounds inside the 5 at the 3. That is exactly what Arkansas needed. 68 yards. It's 1st and goal.
We'll take another look at it here. You know, you're either looking at from a Richardson standpoint. I don't know if he had the flat or the slot was supposed to go with the number 2 receiver, but definitely a bust. And now just here looking at our end zone cam.
1st and goal. Hand it off. Sanders, touchdown, Arkansas. 3rd down coming up. 3rd and 3 for the Bulldogs. Rogers, pump fakes. Dumps it off underneath, and another one that's almost picked off.
He sees, he's watching the quarterback's eyes, and Marks kind of stops. His quarterback led him a little bit.
All Mississippi State early. Arkansas with some momentum late in that 2nd quarter. Will Rogers, his 3rd touchdown pass today. Give him 22 on the year. So they go at this tempo, man. It's fun to watch. They just haven't been able to do it today. Here's Hornsby. Has a man wide open down the right side. Hazelwood to the 20. Another big play for the Arkansas offense. Trying to convert here on third down. Hazelwood goes in motion. He'll run it off the right side with Sanders. Trying to get a stiff arm, and he does. To the 5. Hard run down to the 2. Big boy run from Rocket Sanders. Will at 294 through the air. Boy.
Seemed to come up with the catch earlier. That time he felt it, and one he probably should have had that gets clipped there by Jet Johnson first.
Here's Sanders. Hornsby has time. He's got Sanders wide open. Comes to him on this side. And here's Rocket. He's out over the 40 to the 45. Hornsby. All day to throw. Going deep down the field. Has a man. It's caught. Touchdown. Bryce Stevens. 54 yards. What a throw from Hornsby.
This was a laser and a rope. All day by the offensive line, Arkansas up front. And he just, Richardson is there, but I mean, that was outstanding ball placement by Hornsby to be able to get it to Stevens. Taking a look at it, Stevens, he goes up and he's just able to catch this football, and it's one-on-one, and obviously that starts because of the offensive line. We'll take another look at it here. You got quads and you try to overload one side. I like my one-on-one matchup. Let me see if my receiver can make a play for me down the field, and that's exactly what Bryce Stevens is able to do.
Rogers, quick slant, and no flags.
Took another look at it and just trying to run a slant route. And you see, obviously, the right hand gets in there and poke the football out.
3rd down and 10 coming up for Arkansas. Here comes some pressure. Hornsby feels it, gets a little block on the outside, and has the first down and a whole lot more down to the Mississippi State 40-yard line. Here's the freshman, Rashad Davinian, who,
for the run game, to be able to pick up the yardage.
Hornsby. Here's Malik. He will get out of bounds inside the 45. Nice run by Hornsby. Big hole to Bunyan. And the helmet comes flying off as that ball's batted down. Another one.
Arkansas and Mississippi State. I don't know what more of the story is in this one. What's happened to Woo Pig or the ascension and what's going right from Mississippi State, Will Rogers to Austin Williams?
Way too much time in the pocket for Will Rogers. When you watch this game, Will Rogers stood in the pocket for half the game without being touched.
Now Rogers to the name my phone always autocorrects to. Ducking. Caleb Ducking.
Arkansas is just rushing 3 guys. They're trying to drop 8 and take away all the throws, but these Mississippi State receivers, they're finding ways to get open.
Guys, how ridiculous is Will Rogers' stat line week in and week out? Dillion Johnson, 30 yards for the touchdown. 5-1. Arkansas has lost 3 in a row, 40-17 the final. Mississippi State
becoming a team to watch closely in the SEC West. Will Rogers and company hosting Arkansas. Rogers looking, cowboy up, young man, rolling to his left, and he throws, and it's tipped and caught. Jaden Walley, touchdown.
Will Rogers had all day to throw so many times today that they couldn't get to him. He was back there with his knees locked without a care in the world. He did a great job escaping and getting the ball to Walley.
14 zip the score there, and then a little shovel pass to Dylan Johnson. And what does this do? It gets him his 922nd career completion, breaking Georgia great Aaron Murray's SEC career record. If he wants it, he's got 2 more years left to get to about 2,000. It could potentially. Rogers then to Austin Williams. Find him.
Takia was freaking out.
7 Mississippi State count. He had way too much time.
Mississippi State?
Yeah, not Mississippi. Mississippi State.
That's like a second and a half each time.
You know, the game looked like it was completely one-sided to this point, 21-3, and all of a sudden Arkansas shows some signs of life. They're able to score here.
Malik Hornsby there, the quarterback, with K.J. Jefferson out, which we probably should have said 20 seconds ago. K.J. Jefferson out. And then there he is, Mr. Autocorrect. Caleb ducking, ladies and gentlemen. Hit the touchdown.
This was one of the biggest plays of the game, though, because the momentum had swung to Arkansas' side. There was no panic from Mississippi State. Will Rogers taking him right down the field, hitting this guy ducking for the touch.
Look at, you know what Hornsby just brought? Little mandolin rain right to the arms of Bryce Stevens for the touchdown.
They threw several good balls. I think that was one of them. I mean, aired it out. And, you know, I think early in the game it was tough. They don't have K.J. Jefferson, but then they figure out a way to make things happen and start connecting with some of the receivers downfield.
How about another record then? Bumper Pool, 409th career tackle, Arkansas record.
Stupid Bumper, love it.
Right? Bank shot, 409 times. And then Dylan Johnson, 100-yard day. First Leach player to hit 100 at Mississippi State. He likes the balance, the numbers, rushing and passing, does the coach.
If you add up, and you look like a guy that's really good in math and things. I mean, because that's why everybody goes into journalism, because they love math. And to be perfectly honest, I hated math, so I actually thought about journalism for that particular reason. But those backs, the backs had. They might have had as many yards as the rest of the team combined. I don't think quite, but it's probably kind of close. Maybe they did. And Brandon will tell you he's really good at math. And so then, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, those guys are kind of the warriors back there. You want them to have the ball. And not only that, just for good measure, you're going to ask them to block also. So I thought they had a good game.
Every Saturday you have a game, and you better get ready for it. And we've lost 3 in a row. I told the kids after if anybody asks them a question, blame me, because I'm the head coach, and I'm the one that deserves the blame. And I'm not trying to be holier than thou up here. I believe that. I'm the head coach. I deserve the blame. I guess basically what I'm saying is I don't want our kids. There's a difference in losing and being a loser. And there's a difference. And we lost. But we're not a group of a bunch of losers, because we can come back.
Mississippi State's best start since 2014. They ran for 173 yards, their most in the Mike Leach era. We saw it at the beginning of the year. Then they kind of got away from that balance for a couple of games. They're right back with that balance offense.
I just thought they did a wonderful job early in the game, coming out and understanding, counting the box. When we talk about Will Rogers, the quarterback, if they had 5 in the box, meaning the defenders there, they were going to run the football. And I think that explains it, being the reason why they were able to get over 100 yards rushing today and really put the Arkansas defense in a conundrum, meaning they couldn't stop them. They didn't know whether or not to play pass or run.
Yeah, back-to-back games of 100 yards. This is big because this air raid offense isn't known for running the football.
Mm-hmm.
Usually when we talk about the air raid offense, it's the short 5-yard routes, and we say that's part of the run game. But there has been a change, and I think it was a decision that's been made by not only Coach Leach but his staff, and the players have to buy in to say, look, we're going to run the football. Dylan Johnson run the football as his first 100-yard game. And he talked about Woody Marks. He led the team in receiving while also running the football. And so when you're able to run the football, you're able to establish that attitude. Teams can't just tee off on Will Rogers and his incredible arm. They have to respect the entire offense. That puts them on their heels. That makes them dangerous.
Both of you guys are exactly right. And the point of all of this culmination of compliments we're giving is it's time to acknowledge Mississippi State is a legitimately really good football team. It's not this cute air raid thing where they can score some points and put up stats that really don't matter. This is a team that's winning ball games. They have a legitimate offense that has a counterpunch. You want to take away the pass, and we can run the ball effectively. And the defense, Zach Arnett's defense, they gave up almost 500 yards, but they only gave up 17 points. They were salty down in the red zone. You talked about it earlier, Takeo. Only 7 points on 3 trips to that part of the field. The bottom line is, your offense is good if you score touchdowns, which this offense finishes most drives with touchdowns, and the defense doesn't give up a lot of them. It's a great combination, and Mississippi State needs to be taken seriously.
Yeah, they go to Kentucky next week, primetime game on SEC Network. We talk about how air raid, you don't think of the run game. I'm going to go back a little ways, as maybe my Big 12 brain will do. About 15 years ago when he was coaching Texas Tech, they had a running back named Ricky Williams. Not the Texas Ricky Williams, but the Red Raider version, who was really doggone good and could go for 100, 150 a pop. It was a dangerous team. We remember how good those teams were. This team might be just as good.
Yeah, I think this is a team that people need to stop sleeping on because nationally, I don't think they realize just how good Will Rogers is or how good this Bulldog team is.
No doubt. 5-1, off to Kentucky next week. Arkansas goes to BYU in an interesting non-conference game next week. Mississippi State player under Leach to have a 100-yard game. First under Leach since Washington State's Max Borghi did it back in 2019. Arkansas, no KJ Jefferson. This felt like they'd lost the game before they took the field. The second that became an official thing, not having KJ. But Mississippi State's a legitimate football team, right? I mean, this is a team that you look at your schedule, you should be shaking in your boots a little bit, regardless of who you are.
I think you should be, and I think part of it is because they've been willing to evolve. One thing we talk about in football all the time is you can't be the same team that you were if you want to go where you want to get to. And you look back at that LSU game when they were beaten, they weren't able to run the football. And it's almost like Mike Leach got everybody in and said, look, we are going to figure out a way to run the football. You mentioned it, Dylan Johnson had a 100-yard game. They ran the ball 6 straight times on their opening drive, so it definitely was an emphasis today. And you look at this team, Takeo, they seem to be a team that is hitting their stride at the right time. They can obviously throw the football, but when you add that running game in there and the way they play defense, they're in this midseason time of turning into what I think is a complete football team.
I agree with you, but I want to go back to Arkansas. It was huge that KJ Jefferson did not play. Not having his presence, especially in the red zone. When they got in the red zone today, they were 1 for 3. They went down there 2 times without scoring. Now, with KJ Jefferson, the thing that he brings to the table is the patience, the cool, calm, collect, and being able to make those inside plays, whether or not if it's giving to Rocket Sanders or, pump faking it and then being able to find the slant. I really felt like they missed him today out there.
They did. And you know what? The football, we try to overcomplicate it. It's really very simple. It's about scoring touchdowns. You talked about it there. 1 of 3, only got 7 points in that part of the field. And conversely, Mississippi State's been one of the best teams in the country when it comes to converting red zone opportunities with touchdowns. Today, 4 of 4 coming into the game. They had been 7 of the last 7 over the last 3 ball games. That's consistency. That's finishing drives and effectively putting teams in holes when the way they methodically go down the field and finish with a touchdown.
Let's look at Arkansas for a minute here because it's a team that's now lost 3 in a row, right? We know year 1 under Sam Pittman, the record wasn't great. The progress was obvious, and it was 2020 in the COVID year in the 10-game schedule. Year 2, they win 9 games. Hadn't done that in a decade or whatever since Petrino was there. Now they've lost 3 straight, 3 and 3. They go to BYU next Saturday. We don't know the health of KJ Jefferson, though. Reports are it's a concussion-related situation. He should be okay by next week. How do you calm down the Razorback fan base, which is all sorts of up in arms right now?
The problem is that they won too much too soon. And if we go back to just a couple years ago in Chad Morris's final season, that program was in complete disarray. What masked the overhaul was some success that they had the last couple years. And think about the veterans that they lost defensively. We talked about Grant Morgan from last year's team, Hayden Henry being gone. You're seeing defensively where they're not the same team as they have been the last couple seasons. The missed tackles, the inability to cover in the secondary. I know they've had some injuries, but you lose a couple guys to the transfer portal to LSU. So it is a team right now that's in the process of rebuilding and maybe getting some of these things exposed that were lying there under the surface last year.
And if you're being honest, you also miss a guy offensively like Treylon Burks.
For sure.
I mean, one of the things that Coach Pittman talked about this offseason, even at SEC Media Days, was I've had to find someone to replace his production. And while they found Hazelwood a transfer, they've got some other guys that can play wide receiver. We still haven't seen early in the year the connection that KJ Jefferson had with Treylon Burks. And so you're right. When you win early, there's expectations. But what I will say to every fan base is so many times we overreact to the good and the bad at the same time. Let's just hope KJ Jefferson is not hurt long term and he can come back and play because he's a heck of a football player.
One of the things to mention also is we've all been a part of teams like this to where you come out, you play well, and then you go through a little rut. And the big thing is, if you're a player inside of that Arkansas locker room, you have to understand, don't press too hard. Don't do much. Don't try to do too much that's asked of you. Do your job, and let's figure out the little things to simplify everything to where 1 + 1 = 2, and then you continue to add up the positive plays that you create.
Yeah, but the fans, all they're adding up
are losses in their mind, and that's what's concerning to them. It's understandable after a 9-3 season,
but I still think they got the right guy.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You know,
right,
I think that's.
Look, this is a tough league,
and they have the hardest schedule.
And they always have the hardest schedule. It feels like.